Storms, and in just 2 days live on the WWE Network. It is that time of the year again for the black and gold brand, as we will see 4 teams, 2 rings, 1 cage inside of War Games. Indeed, it is going to be a barn burner of a show. It's going to be barn burners of matches. One woman looking for revenge against the Poison Pixie. And of course, we got one man leading a team of jackals looking to prey on the strong, proud leaders of NXT that we have seen dominate the brand for so long. But before it is time for that Poison Pixie and that Goddess of War to go into war, before it is time for the man leading the hungry herd of jackals against the proud leaders, before it is time for NXT TakeOver War Games, it's time for the rundown. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to yet another video right here on YouTube.com. As of course, you already know who I am, Mr. Controversy and the operator of the best damn Twitter handle Wait for it. Wait for it. To mankind, this is the official rundown for NXT TakeOver War Games 4, which of course is streaming live on the WWE Network this Sunday, December 6th, with the show starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and of course continuing the trend here for the rundowns here on the #1 channel on YouTube.com. I am not alone. Now, this man, of course, he made his debut. He made his debut in the wrestling analytical world just 2 months ago when he joined me for the rundown for TakeOver 31, and he's back once again to talk and dissect everything NXT TakeOver related. He is one of, if not the most loyal member of the DJ Storms posse. Lifelong wrestling fan, please help me welcome back to the channel, Matt Moody. How you doing, sir?
What's up, DJ Storms? How are you, buddy?
I am pretty good. I was trying to stay as excited as I possibly can, especially for a video, especially for a collaboration. You know, I'm always down to collaborate with you. You hit a home run at the last rundown that we did for TakeOver 31. But I'm telling you, man, I'm really having trouble. Staying excited for TakeOver. Anything NXT related. And it really does pain me to say that, specifically because of how poorly the weekly shows have been produced. So I'm trying as best as I can to hype everyone up. I'm trying to stay as excited as I possibly can. The takeovers, I know, are going to be great. There's never been a bad NXT takeover, so I don't expect this show to be bad in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying that it sucks that no matter how good this show could be, if they want to, it could be the best takeover of the year. And more likely than not, War Games is usually the best takeover of the year. No matter how great the show will be, it's not going to rekindle that love for NXT. It's not going to spark up a new era for NXT. We're not going to get back that NXT of old, which kind of sucks. And trust me, I'm gonna throw the ball over to you so you can explain your thoughts on that and explain your current feelings on the current NXT product. But first things first, how have you been? How's the family been?
Everybody's been doing good. Everybody. Most important has been, everyone is staying safe. That's been the most important thing.
So, tell me right now, the build in my eyes, obviously, as in many people's eyes, has been piss poor. And I don't believe that I'm even saying that, because the builds towards NXT TakeOvers are usually the best things that we've seen. They're usually the best builds towards any pay-per-view, which kind of sucks. But this TakeOver and the last TakeOver builds have been completely half-assed, almost non-existent. So, first things first, before we get into the matches, what are your thoughts on the current build towards this TakeOver? What are your thoughts on the current weekly NXT product? Because this is the first time that you've been on the show in a while, and NXT in the last 2 months has been a roller coaster. They've been up, they've been down, they've been up, they've been down. They've had a decent week one week, they've had a boring week the next week, especially throughout the month of November. Month of November was not a very good month for NXT. So what are your current thoughts on the War Games build and the current NXT weekly product as a whole?
Well, I do agree with you on the state of NXT, that it hasn't been at its best. It hasn't been like the old TakeOver, like we have seen of the past. And this build, man, it just hasn't been there. And on top of that, too, you don't have your NXT champion Finn Balor competing at TakeOver, which means, I'm kind of surprised. I'm surprised by it. And I know it's been like 2 months since he had a match against Kyle O'Reilly for the NXT Championship, but still, this is one of your best, if not the best wrestler in NXT, and he's your champion. He's not even on the card.
I believe that he's still recovering from a jaw injury. We'll talk about Finn Balor. Trust me, I actually do have a theory of where Finn Balor might be going, and I do think that we'll see him back in action this month. I don't think they're going to have Finn Balor go into 2021 without at least one more title defense, so we'll talk about that. But I believe that Finn Balor's not on the card, specifically because they did not know whether or not he would have been back in time to compete again. Because, remember, a broken jaw takes about like 6 to 8 weeks to heal. He got it at TakeOver, and they were kind of just waiting to see what would have happened, because if he was to be out longer, then he would have had to relinquish the title. But it seems as though he's going to be back this month, so he's not relinquishing the title, which I am insanely thankful for. I am very, very happy that he's not relinquishing the title, especially after what we saw with Karrion Kross, and everyone was labeling the NXT Championship cursed ever since Adam Cole lost it to Keith Lee. But we'll talk about Finn Balor in a minute. But first things first, we're going to get into the matches here. But before we get into the matches, we need to get through a few self-brand promotions and advertisements as per usual. First things first, I need you guys, if you haven't already done so, to follow me on the Twitter sticks. I know my girl Danielle loves that. The Twitter sticks at HistoryMakerDJS. You'll find out why I am. Yeah, you'll find out why I am the operator of the best damn Twitter handle known to mankind. So please follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram and Periscope at TheDJStorms. Add me on Facebook as well for collaborations and business inquiries. Please, please, please send me an email. My email is, of course, StormsTakeOver at gmail.com. Like the official DJ Storms business page, and I may just send you an invite to join the official DJ Storms Posse group on Facebook, in which, of course, Mr. Moody is an administration on. All the links are in the description. Please go check those out. If you guys haven't already done so, I don't understand why you wouldn't have. We are almost 10 minutes into the video. If you haven't already liked the video, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. I need you to like the video. There is a thumbs up button right down there, so if you haven't already clicked it, please click it. I'm trying to grow and expand and get into the eyes of many other people, but in order to do that, I need you guys to hit the thumbs up. It's really not that hard, alright? Don't be stubborn assholes now, alright? And of course, when you hit the thumbs up, I need you guys to spark up the conversation within the chat. Of course, I am moderating the chat. Please spark up the conversation in the chat. You can talk amongst yourselves, talk amongst me. And when you spark up the conversation, I need you guys to share out the stream. Share out the video on all platforms of social media, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr, Pinterest. any form of social media that you have, please share it out. We want to get as many people in here as possible. And when you share it out, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button because I'm trying to grow and expand. YouTube is a fucking pain in the ass. I don't know what's going on with YouTube because they're purging my fucking subscribers again. I went from 2120 down to 2116, back to 2118, down to 2114, down to 2113, and now I'm at 2112. I don't know what the fuck's going on with YouTube and my subscribers. They are purging subscribers left and right. The site is really gone downhill. I'm not surprised that a lot of people are transferring over to Twitch. I really don't blame them whatsoever. But please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. I'm trying to get into the eyes of many other people. And when you hit that subscribe button, please, you gotta hit that notifications bell with a huge coup de grace. That way you will know whenever I pop up on YouTube. Because whenever I pop up on YouTube, it is the best time to be on YouTube. It's the only time you're gonna get to see this glorious sideburn chin strap combination and this beautiful mustache right here. Is there even a question that I got it? Of course I fucking got it. Come on. Should know me by now. Everybody wants a piece of the Stormsmeister. Anyway, enough of these self-brand promotion and advertisements. We're going to get straight into the matches right here. And we're going to start off with the women's War Games match. It is Team Shotzi, Blackheart, Ember Moon, Rhea Ripley, and the NXT Women's Champion Io Shirai versus Team Candice LeRae, of course, captained by Candice LeRae. She has Toni Storm, Dakota Kai, and Raquel Gonzalez on her team. This is the second ever Women's War Games match, and I'm actually going to hand the ball over to you. I'm going to hand the ball over to you, Mr. Moody, first. I want you to give me your expertise analysis, your thoughts, and your full analytical dissection of this match, and of course, give me your prediction in the end. So, I want to hear it. What you got?
Well, if I thought the first ever Women's War Games match in NXT history was memorable, I hope this year's Women's War Games will be just as memorable. Team Shotzi has herself, Ember Moon, Rhea Ripley, and the NXT Women's Champion Io Shirai. And how can your champ, your women's champ, not be the captain of your team? Doesn't seem right. But those four are awesome together. But Candice, she has displayed a very good team herself with Raquel Gonzalez, Toni Storm, who recently just turned heel, and Dakota Kai, who was talked about last year's War Games by turning on our longtime friend Tegan Knox. And, back to the match, though. Team Shotzi has the advantage in War Games, and I believe they'll end up winning here. Anytime you can have a team that Team Shotzi has, you definitely have a chance of winning. And I see Team Shotzi picking up the win here in the Women's War Games.
The one thing that you said that actually I agree with wholeheartedly. Well, first thing first, I agree with everything that you just said, but the one thing that stuck out to me the most is the fact that you said you hope this Women's War Games match will be just as memorable. And it really does suck to look back on the build towards the first Women's War Games match, because I said it before, the story of that match was how you had Rhea Ripley being built up to be the next in line to challenge Shayna. And of course, you had all of these moving parts in the Women's War Games match. You had the addition of Kaylee Ray, the NXT UK Women's Champion. She made history in her own right. You had Bianca Belair and Io Shirai having a nice showcase in that match on Team Baszler. And then, of course, you had the shocking heel turn from Dakota Kai on Tegan Knox, and then Rhea Ripley and Candice LeRae overcoming a 4-on-2 disadvantage and winning the match. So the build towards the Women's War Games match in 2019 was actually a lot better here because of all of those moving parts, and of course the rising star in Rhea Ripley, of course before she ran into Charlotte Flair. But this Women's War Games match, I hated the build towards this because they've made this match specifically specifically over the fact that Candice LeRae destroyed Shotzi Blackheart's motorized go-kart decorated as a tank. So, the thing that I don't like, and I know what the end game here is. The end game here is ultimately to build up Shotzi Blackheart, which I believe will be done. I believe that Shotzi Blackheart is going to have a great showcase. I believe that this is going to be a breakout performance for Shotzi Blackheart. I'm actually surprised that Io Shirai is not defending the NXT Women's title on TakeOver. But if she wanted to be in the Women's War Games, you know what? I'm not really going to blame her there. I'm not going to complain because obviously you want to have the NXT Women's Champion on your team. But again, the match is built over someone's motorized go-kart being destroyed. And here's the thing. Before that, the feud between Candice and Shotzi was over the fact that each women were costing each other NXT Women's title opportunities. I don't really understand why Candice LeRae had to go forth and destroy Shotzi's tank, because that's pretty much all that they've been focusing on. They even tweeted it out when this match was made: destroy a tank, start a war, and then they talked about the Women's War Games match where Shotzi and Candice are the captains. That's the one thing I've hated about this build towards this match, but I do expect this to be a very good match. I do expect this to be a breakout performance for Shotzi, and just like you said, I do see Team Shotzi winning this. Shotzi Blackheart, she has been a great hand in NXT. She's had a couple of great matches here and there with Candice, with Io, and Dakota Kai as well. She had a great showcase in the gauntlet match, I believe it was back in March, where they were determining a spot in the ladder match to determine who was going to face Charlotte Flair after Charlotte Flair won the NXT Women's Championship. So she had a good showcase in that gauntlet match as well, but she hasn't really had that one true breakout performance that has made so many people gravitate towards her and say, yeah, Shotzi Blackheart's going to be a mainstream star. She's going to be a big star in the division, and I feel as though this is going to be it. I do see Team Shotzi winning this, and if anything, I actually see Shotzi Blackheart as the next challenger for Io Shirai. I don't think she's going to win. I think eventually that is going to be the title of Toni Storm. Toni Storm is eventually going to take the title off Io Shirai at the beginning of next year, but I do see Shotzi Blackheart gaining an NXT Women's title opportunity at Io Shirai probably towards the end of this month or possibly the beginning of next month. So I want to hear your thoughts on this. Do you see Shotzi as the next challenger?
Only if her team wins the War Games. Only if her team wins the Women's War Games that Shotzi would get a title shot. But and I do agree. Shotzi Blackheart, she deserves an opportunity. Although I believe she had a women's title match against Io Shirai.
No, that was a non-title match. That was a non-title match.
Non-title match.
So that's why I think that this is eventually, Yeah,
I do see Shotzi getting an opportunity at Io Shirai, but I do see someone like a Toni Storm becoming NXT Women's Champion right around WrestleMania weekend, perhaps next year. Rhea Ripley, the only way Rhea Ripley can get back to that championship is she turns heel, because Rhea Ripley, her as a face being NXT Women's Champion, just wasn't right, and then she eventually lost to Charlotte Flair. But if she ends up turning heel, I can see her getting at Io Shirai and being NXT Women's Champion sometime next year. Not now, but sometime next year.
I wouldn't mind a Rhea Ripley heel turn, and here's the thing. Rhea Ripley as a babyface, Rhea Ripley was not a bad babyface. The problem is that Rhea Ripley and her character was destroyed because all the character was built around was the NXT Women's Championship, because Charlotte Flair won the Women's Royal Rumble, and they had Charlotte Flair go off and challenge Rhea Ripley. And it was a great match at WrestleMania, don't get me wrong, just the wrong women won. That's the problem here. Rhea Ripley is not a bad babyface. She was actually the hottest star in the company when she won the NXT Women's Championship from Shayna Baszler. She had a decent match with Toni Storm. She had a very good match with Bianca Belair. And then she was placed in a match with Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. That was the one opportunity that they had to make a new star and continue her momentum. And then she should have dropped the title to Shirai. There was no reason for Charlotte Flair to hold the title for an unnecessary 9 weeks. I don't know what the fuck they were going for there, but it was absolutely detrimental as fuck. And here's one thing that I actually thought they were going to do. I thought that they were going to do Rhea Ripley versus Io Shirai here at this War Games. But apparently they didn't, and they're having Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai on Team Shotzi. And to be quite honest with you, there was really nobody else for Team Shotzi except for Ember Moon and Toni Storm. I didn't think that they were going to put Indy Hartwell in there with Candice LeRae and her team, considering that Indy Hartwell, she just got there, and she is not a very good wrestler whatsoever. So they made the right call with turning Toni Storm heel. The one thing that I'm concerned with is, once Team Shotzi wins, and I do expect Team Shotzi to win, where does Candice LeRae go? That's the one thing that I'm concerned about, because they put Candice LeRae in a women's title opportunity one takeover too early. I didn't know they were bringing back Ember Moon and Toni Storm, and I feel as though Ember Moon and Toni Storm have kind of slid into a spot where they're going to overshadow Candice LeRae. Candice LeRae is finally getting an opportunity to showcase what she can really do, and she is kind of being shafted for Toni Storm and Ember Moon, which kind of sucks, because I actually called Candice LeRae as the next NXT Women's Champion. I did not think that she was going to win the title from Io Shirai at TakeOver 31, and if she got a rematch, I didn't think she was going to win that, especially since she got one right afterwards at NXT Halloween Havoc. So after those two title opportunities, I don't see her becoming an NXT Women's Champion after Io Shirai. I actually see that going to Toni Storm, just like we talked about. But ultimately, I don't know where Candice LeRae goes. If anything, if they don't have anything planned for Candice LeRae, she's probably main roster bound after WrestleMania 37, which I am fucking dreading. I do not want to see that at all.
And you know what? And also, too, Candice, you know, she's lost the NXT Women's title match twice to Io. And you know, the last thing, like you said, for Candice is to be on the main roster where basically, you know, your career goes to die if you go on the main roster. So I would want to see Candice stay on the main roster. I mean, not on the main roster, but the NXT.
Well, at this rate, we all know why Rhea Ripley, Tommaso Ciampa, and Johnny Gargano said they want to stay in NXT as long as possible. Even if NXT is not the same, it is by default better than the main roster. But we are Team Shotzi across the board here. We're going to move on to the next match right here. The only championship match on the show, actually. Leon Ruff versus Johnny Gargano versus Damian Priest for the NXT North American Championship. Now, let me tell you something. I'm not discrediting Leon Ruff in the ring. The guy's not a bad wrestler. He's actually a fairly good professional wrestler. And NXT is the place for guys like Leon Ruff to gain opportunity. And I am all for guys like Leon Ruff gaining an opportunity. I have no problem with Leon Ruff. I do not hate Leon Ruff as a professional wrestler whatsoever. But if anyone is defending the North American title win of Leon Ruff, I don't know what the fuck your mentality is. I don't know what the fuck your malfunction is. But this is absolutely detrimental. And I'm not sure if you even realize this, but they backed themselves into a lose-lose-lose situation with this match. Do I expect this match to be a great match? Yes, I do. If anything, this could be the best match that's not a War Games match on this show. I do not expect this match to be bad. It's impossible to have a bad match when you got Johnny Gargano in there and Damian Priest in there. Leon Ruff's not a bad professional wrestler whatsoever. So we're bound to get a very good work rate match for the NXT North American Championship. But at the end of the fucking day, Leon Ruff literally came from fucking nothing. He was squashed in 60 seconds by Karrion Kross just 8 months ago. Then he was put on the main roster and Sheamus Bro kicked his fucking head off. The guy came into the WWE as a jobber. And I literally said he was the Black James Ellsworth. The only difference between him and James Ellsworth is James Ellsworth didn't win a fucking championship. This is actually worse than the James Ellsworth storyline with Jon Moxley and AJ Styles. That's exactly what I got. A complete jobber being placed in a storyline with two main event stars. And no matter what happens here, no matter whether Leon wins, Johnny wins, or Priest wins, it's a lose-lose-lose situation. If Leon Ruff wins, this joke of a professional wrestler is going to continue being the North American champion. He's going to continue devaluing the North American Championship. I wouldn't have minded Leon Ruff winning the title if you would have actually built him up through wins. If you would have actually had him go on a winning streak, and then you could have developed a storyline with a Johnny Gargano or a Damian Priest, and you could have given him a title shot based on that storyline. It needs to make sense. You literally pulled this guy from nothing because you wanted to have Johnny Gargano in a title defense on live television, which resulted in him losing the championship in a shocking moment just to try and generate ratings for NXT. So if Leon Ruff wins, it's a lose situation because this joke of a professional wrestler is going to continue being the North American champion. You're going to have a jobber still as champion. If Johnny wins, then I'm going to say, well, why'd you even take the title off of Johnny to begin with? Johnny's going to be a 3-time North American champion, and his accumulated days as champion will only be, 45 days? 50 days? That's how many days you're going to hold the fucking championship and you've held it 3 times? I mean, are they trying to make Johnny Gargano the Sasha Banks of NXT? Obviously before Sasha Banks defeated Bayley and won the SmackDown Women's title. And then if Damian Priest wins, why'd you even take the title off of Damian Priest initially? I said this the moment that Gargano won the title. Damian Priest should have never lost the championship. Damian Priest should have been the champion going into this takeover. Damian Priest should have been the champion going into next year. Gargano doesn't need the North American title. Gargano's above the North American title. If anything, I would have built up Johnny Gargano as a challenger for Finn Balor and the NXT Championship. I would have had Gargano possibly win the NXT Championship and become a 2-time NXT Champion. At least Gargano would have been in the correct spot. Gargano doesn't need to be the North American Champion because he's already a made man. The North American title should be used to build up stars that are not in the NXT title picture. So, I don't understand why they even took the title off of Priest to begin with. No matter who wins, no matter how great the match is, it's a lose-lose-lose situation. I don't know who's going to win. Johnny Gargano showed up on NXT with 2 ghost faces. Now, that's making me think that Gargano's going to win the title back. But if anything, I would not give Gargano the title back. I would give the title to Damian Priest and rebuild what you had with Damian Priest before you fucked it up by giving the title to Johnny. If anything, I would give the title to Damian Priest, and I would have Damian Priest go into 2021 with the NXT North American Championship. My prediction is Priest, but I don't know. I have a feeling that Johnny Gargano might win this. Matt Moody, I'm going to hand the ball over to you. What are your thoughts on this?
Don't Leon Ruff look like he came straight out of middle school, NXT?
Dude.
Instead of you building him up as a superstar?
Dude, he's tiny as fuck. He does not have any muscle on him. And I'm not one to talk because I'm not a muscular guy, but the dude legitimately looks like he's made out of twigs. I don't hate the guy, but you're really going to try and sell me on him as the North American champion when you've done nothing to build him up and he looks like he's made out of fucking toothpicks?
I was very unfamiliar with Leon Ruff before he even won the NXT North America Championship from Johnny Gargano, which I absolutely did not expect to see happen. I mean, he looks like a boy compared to the men like Tommaso Ciampa, Adam Cole, and Johnny Gargano's when it comes to NXT.
Oh my God.
The unlikeliest champion we've ever seen, like ever. Now, he's shown that dreams do come true, but how long will his Cinderella run as champion last now that he has to face two men in Gargano and Damian Priest just to keep his title? He's been champ almost longer than Gargano's 2 reigns combined as NXT North America champ.
That's sad.
And if Gargano does become, I know, and if Gargano does become North American champ at TakeOver, how confident are we that when it comes to holding on to that title, and if he does win it back, and I'm not totally confident that he can have a lengthy third reign as champion. Now, Damian Priest, I thought he would have a lengthy reign himself, but he lost to Gargano in that Devil's Playground match at Halloween Havoc. Now, as for who I have walking out with the NXT North America title, you know, I've been fighting with who was going to win the NXT North America title over the past few days, but I'm going with Leon Ruff to retain the belt at his first TakeOver. And listen, I know it's a tough call, and you know Gargano, I think should be the favorite to win, but again, not confident. Damian Priest, you know, if he does win the title back, how long is he going to hold the title? But I do have Leon Ruff winning here and retaining the championship.
You see, I feel as though we're going to see a title change. I feel as though it's a toss-up between Johnny or Damian Priest, specifically because of the fact that they literally just put the title on Leon Ruff just to try and spark up some conversation. I feel as though Triple H has probably been campaigning to get the title back on either Gargano or Priest. I don't know where they're going to go, and to be quite honest, again, I'm still pissed. I'm still pissed that they did not give Damian Priest a lengthy title reign. If anything, I would have probably had Damian Priest hold the title going into WrestleMania TakeOver, and I probably would have had him lose it to someone like a Cameron Grimes or Dexter Loomis. Speaking of which, we're actually going to talk about that match next, but he's got Leon Ruff, I got Damian Priest. We're talking about Dexter Loomis versus Cameron Grimes in a strap match. Or, as Cameron Grimes would say, it's Dexter Loomis versus Cameron Grimes. That's how he would say it. That's how he would say it. I could do a pretty good impersonation.
Cameron, he is something.
Let me tell you something. I did not think
Cameron Grimes is.
I did not think that he was going to be a big star, but I'm telling you right now. Well, first things first, I was a big advocate for Cameron Grimes, not for his promo ability, but for the fact that he could put on a great fucking match whenever that bell rings. But ever since the Haunted House of Terror match, I thought that Cameron Grimes was absolutely fucking hilarious. And that's actually something that's going to make him last a lot longer. It's his entertaining aspect. So Cameron Grimes is actually a very entertaining individual. Now, here's my thing with this match. This match should be fun. I don't expect this match to be anything groundbreaking, but it should be fun. But the thing that I just don't like is the fact that I'm not sure if anyone else feels this way, but I feel as though they just ran this feud into the ground. Because after the Haunted House of Terrors match, I feel as though that should have been the end. Dexter Loomis should have moved on. But they continued the feud leading into November, and they had a blindfold match, a gimmick match on NXT, which was fucking terrible, and then now we have a strap match. I feel as though it's like the Drew McIntyre-Randy Orton feud of NXT, where they're fighting over and over and over again. I'm not sure if anyone else feels that way, but it just feels as though this match shouldn't even be happening. If anything, I thought that they were going to build up Dexter Loomis to fight Damian Priest on this show for the North American title, but they gave Dexter Loomis an NXT North American title match literally a week and a half after TakeOver 31, and then you put Damian Priest and Johnny Gargano in another match at Halloween Havoc, and put Dexter Loomis with Cameron Grimes. So, I don't know what they're doing with Dexter Loomis, but Dexter Loomis, he is absolutely a top-tier contender to become North American champion in 2021. Cameron Grimes is up there as well. So, I feel as though this match should be a very fun match. I really don't expect anything groundbreaking. I don't expect anything over the top. I don't expect anything like we saw in the Haunted House of Terrors match on Halloween Havoc. But I do expect something fun. Dexter Loomis is one of, if not the best thing on NXT television that I think we have seen all year. Throughout this pandemic era, Dexter Loomis has absolutely been a shining star on NXT. Dexter Loomis has all the potential in the world to be a major star, and it sucks because a gimmick like this, Vince McMahon and fucking baboon-ass face Bruce Pritchard wouldn't know what to fucking do with him if he got up to Raw or SmackDown. And that's what fucking sucks about a guy like Dexter Loomis, because he's great at what he does. He is so focused. I don't think I've ever seen anyone who commits to a gimmick like Dexter Loomis. A gimmick like that specifically. It's easy for a guy like MJF to commit to his gimmick because all he has to do is be a prick. But Dexter Loomis, a gimmick like that is very, very, very hard to commit to. And that's something that I love about Dexter Loomis. So Dexter Loomis, he is definitely on the top of my list to become North American champion in 2021. And if anything, I do see him winning this match. I do see him winning. I do see him continuing his momentum. And I do see Dexter Loomis heading into 2021 and being a North American champion, probably by WrestleMania weekend. We'll see what happens. Because Dexter Loomis, I feel as though he should have been champion already. I feel as though he was the favorite to win the ladder match at TakeOver 30. But he got injured, so they ended up giving it to Priest. We'll see what happens, but I got Dexter Loomis. All right, Matt, floor's yours.
I don't know if you can call this feud bizarre or strange. It's up for everyone in the wrestling community to decide how to sum up Dexter Loomis versus Cameron Grimes. You know, I like Dexter. I like him. You know, his presence, the look in his eyes, his entrance music brings intimidation to other wrestlers. Now, as for him winning a championship in the future, I don't know, man. I don't know. Now, maybe if he does win a championship, it would be the NXT North America title. But, you know, there's something about Dexter Loomis that I don't see him winning a championship. I don't know if it's the way he wrestles in the ring or his style, but you know, I like Dexter Loomis. You know, he is someone that, you know, can potentially win a championship in the future. Cameron Grimes has championship potential himself. I see more of Cameron Grimes than Dexter Loomis because of his enthusiasm and his ability to wrestle in the ring. But he has to beat Dexter first to be in discussion for a title shot. And we haven't had many strap matches in WWE. And this might be the first strap match we've had in NXT.
Second.
I have Dexter Loomis winning over Cameron Grimes. Okay, all right. I have Dexter Loomis winning over Cameron Grimes, mainly because of the match specialty and Loomis having his number in this feud. I'm going to go with Dexter Loomis here. This should be a fairly decent match. Hopefully it'll be better than I expect. I'm going with Dexter Loomis here.
The first strap match in NXT history actually involved Dexter Loomis. It was Dexter Loomis versus Roderick Strong at the Great American Bash. Yeah, that was at the Great American Bash, and Dexter Loomis won. So Dexter Loomis is actually undefeated in strap matches. This would be the third strap match that WWE had this year. And we are Dexter Loomis across the board here. The one thing that I feel as though why you're on the fence about Dexter Loomis winning a championship is because we haven't seen much of Dexter Loomis wrestling top-tier stars in one-on-one matches. Like Dexter Loomis and Cameron Grimes, they haven't had a one-on-one standard wrestling match. It's always been a gimmick. It was either a blindfold match or a Haunted House of Terrors match, and now it's a strap match. They haven't had a straight-up one-on-one wrestling match. So this is probably the closest thing to a standard one-on-one wrestling match that we'll get. But I feel as though once Dexter Loomis is put in there with guys like Austin Theory and Johnny Gargano and Damian Priest, and once we start seeing more of that, that's definitely what is going to help Dexter Loomis break out. That is definitely going to help Dexter Loomis really come into his own as a professional wrestler. But Cameron Grimes definitely is ahead of Dexter Loomis in terms of wrestling. Cameron Grimes, every single time Cameron Grimes has wrestled, that's the one thing that Cameron Grimes, we've seen of him, is that whenever he wrestles, we've seen him in the ring with Matt Riddle, we've seen him in the ring with Finn Balor, we've seen him in the ring with Johnny Gargano, we've seen him in the ring with Keith Lee, Dominik Dijakovic, and every single time he's in the ring with these guys, he puts on a great fucking match. So that's what we've seen from Cameron Grimes that has made us a believer in Cameron Grimes. Now we need to see that from Dexter Loomis. And I feel as though after this match and as the months go on, we're definitely going to see more of that, and that's ultimately going to lead Dexter Loomis to a championship. Where can you see Cameron Grimes going after this match, considering that we both have Dexter Loomis winning this one?
Hopefully, I'd like to see Cameron Grimes build some momentum in NXT by getting some wins under his belt. And again, winning is the most important thing when it comes to wrestling. And if you win matches, you're going to eventually win a championship. And hopefully for Cameron Grimes, if he does come up short, this will be an opportunity for him to build and start winning. And like I said, the more he starts winning, the better chance he has of perhaps winning a championship sometime in 2021.
I feel as though, if anything, what they can do is Dexter Loomis, he wins the North American title WrestleMania weekend. They can revisit it. They can revisit the feud between Cameron Grimes and Dexter Loomis, and they could have Cameron Grimes win the title off of Dexter Loomis at the SummerSlam TakeOver of 2021. That could definitely be a huge factor that ultimately brings these two back together. If we are to see another match in the future between these two, they could tell that story. I don't know where Cameron Grimes goes. It's been a very up and down 2020 for Cameron Grimes. He's winning one week, then he's losing the next week. It's hot and cold. It's stop and start and up and down and up and down. So I don't really know where Cameron Grimes is going. Dexter Loomis, he's been a bit more consistent. They've been booking Dexter Loomis a bit more consistently. So I actually do see Dexter Loomis Dexter Loomis is really breaking out more, and he's going to be winning a championship before Cameron Grimes at this rate. Dexter Loomis, I am actually very happy that he's getting his first TakeOver match, and this should be a breakout performance for Dexter Loomis. We are Dexter Loomis across the board. Dexter Loomis to beat Cameron Grimes in the second ever NXT strap match. So this one has been built up over the course of the last few weeks with Tommaso Ciampa saying that he is the last of a dying breed. He's a very old school guy, and the locker room reputation has changed, and the locker room outlook has changed, and he came across Timothy Thatcher. It is Tommaso Ciampa versus Timothy Thatcher at TakeOver. This was made after a Thatch as Thatch Can session in which Tommaso Ciampa told Timothy Thatcher not to be an ass, and we actually got a brawl in which Timothy Thatcher put Tommaso Ciampa in the guillotine, and Tommaso Ciampa was put to sleep. Now, before we talk about this match, to bring up what you said about Finn Balor, Tommaso Ciampa was actually the guy that I called for Finn Balor to face at this TakeOver. But apparently, it seems as though he is not fully healed yet. So, if anything, I would probably have Tommaso Ciampa face Finn Balor sometime at the end of this month. You know that NXT is probably going to do some like a Christmas special or a New Year's special. If anything, if you're not going to do a TakeOver until like February or March, I would absolutely put Tommaso Ciampa and Finn Balor on an NXT special event on USA Network and have Finn Balor get another title defense before we go into 2021. Specifically because of the fact that Kushida is looming in the background. And before we talk about Timothy Thatcher and Tommaso Ciampa, Kushida has been built up over the course of 4 months. He has not lost a single match in 4 months. He has literally beaten everyone. He's beaten Austin Theory. He's beaten Tony Nese. He's beaten Velveteen Dream. He's beaten Tommaso Ciampa. He's beaten Cameron Grimes. He's beaten Arturo Ruas. He's beaten Timothy Thatcher. Kushida has been winning and winning and winning. He's on like a 7-8 match winning streak. He's beaten everyone throughout the course of the last 3-4 months. So if anything, Kushida is the guy that Finn Balor could ultimately lose the NXT title to. And I actually thought that they were going to build towards that at this TakeOver if it wasn't Tommaso Ciampa fighting Finn Balor, but apparently Finn Balor's not even on the TakeOver card. And that has to do with the fact that he's still recovering from a broken jaw. So if anything, I would have Tommaso Ciampa go forth, win this match against Timothy Thatcher, because Timothy Thatcher, let me tell you something. The guy is a submission specialist. He is a mat grappling technician to epic proportions. He is the best technical wrestler that the company has employed, but the guy's fucking boring. The guy is boring as shit. Like, literally, all the guy does is submission holds. Listen, you can respect the guy, and I respect the guy for his beautiful technical game. I respect the guy for his ability to catch someone in a submission hold just by grabbing them. And I respect what the guy can do in the ring, but seriously, if you're telling me that you find it exciting watching Timothy Thatcher wrestle, you are out of your fucking mind. Watching Timothy Thatcher wrestle is legitimately like watching paint dry. All the guy, I can literally count how many fucking locks he does. There is like 13 wrist locks, there's about 10 ankle locks, there's about 5 shoulder locks, there's about 8 knee locks. Do something else besides a fucking lock. So, I'm telling you, am I the only one? Seriously, what are these people seeing Timothy Thatcher? Listen, he's a great technical wrestler, but he's fucking boring. So, if anything, I don't see Timothy Thatcher winning this specifically because of the fact that there's just no value in Timothy Thatcher other than a guy that's a great submission specialist and a guy that can give you a fun match here and there, as long as he's paired with the right talent. So if anything, I see Tommaso Ciampa winning this. Tommaso Ciampa recently got a victory over Velveteen Dream, and if he gets a victory over Timothy Thatcher here at TakeOver, I would put Tommaso Ciampa next in line to face Finn Balor for the NXT Championship, specifically because Tommaso Ciampa is expendable. He can take a loss, and Finn Balor, you're really not going to take the title off of Finn Balor after 3 months, unless you're fighting Kushida. Because Kushida, if he is to face Finn Balor this month, which I don't think he will, but if he is, then Kushida has to win. You're not going to have Kushida go on like a 9-10 match winning streak only to lose to Finn Balor. Yes, Finn Balor has only held the title for about 3 months, but ultimately, all signs point to Kushida winning. You can't just not give Kushida the belt just because Finn Balor has only held the title for 3 months. Finn Balor's already a made man. The only way that Finn Balor's coming out of a match with Kushida, still the NXT champion, is if they're building up Karrion Kross to come back and take the title off of Finn Balor, which I don't see happening, considering that Vince McMahon he gets a proverbial hard-on every single time he looks at Karrion Kross. That's the whole reason why Karrion Kross was pushed into the NXT title picture after only 5 months of being with NXT. So, if anything, I see Tommaso Ciampa going over Timothy Thatcher here, and I see Tommaso Ciampa going forth to fight Finn Balor for the NXT title before the end of the year. And that will be Finn Balor's bridge match to get into 2021 with the NXT title, and that will be Finn Balor's bridge match towards an eventual title match and an inevitable title loss against Kushida. I got Tommaso Ciampa beating Timothy Thatcher here, and if there's anyone that could bring Timothy Thatcher to a halfway decent match, it's Tommaso Ciampa. Mr. Moody, let me hear it.
Well, hey, I tell you what, the one thing you can count on with Timothy Thatcher, if there's a submission match, you know he'll win a submission match in his sleep. But anyways, if you want physicality, then Tommaso Ciampa against Timothy Thatcher is going to be that match. You know, I'm not sold on Timothy Thatcher, although he does bring a smash mouth technical wrestling to the table. I'll give him that. But he's no champ. He's no Tommaso Ciampa. Now, when Ciampa returned, he at first, showed a more vicious side. Now, he's become a babyface again. And I was all in for heel Ciampa. But now he's a babyface.
I don't necessarily think he's a babyface.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think he's a babyface.
Well,
I think he's more of like a tweener.
Yeah. Okay. Now I don't know what will hold for him going into 2021, but I would love to see him, hold Goldie one more time, just for fun. But as for who wins this match, I'm picking Ciampa to beat Timothy Thatcher here. This should be like I said, it's going to be a physical match. Should be good. And like you said, if there's anybody that can give, Timothy Thatcher an opportunity to face someone who, can give you a good match, it is Ciampa. So I'm going with Ciampa here to beat Timothy Thatcher.
So, where do you see Timothy Thatcher going? Because Timothy Thatcher really does seem like a guy that is just there. He's just there to be a dick, and he's really there to get others over. I feel as though WWE kind of sees that in Timothy Thatcher. They really don't see much of anything in Timothy Thatcher outside of a guy that's just going to be there to give people fun matches and get others over. Because he's been on a TakeOver before. He faced Finn Balor at TakeOver 30, and Finn Balor won that match. He faced off against someone like Kushida, and he put over Kushida. He's been putting over a lot of people. He put over Dexter Loomis. So, if anything, I really don't see Timothy Thatcher as a mainstream attraction in NXT. So, first things first, where do you see Timothy Thatcher going after this?
He'll probably be going back to wrestling school and teaching them young kids how to put them in submission holds and making them suffer and all that. It's just Timothy Thatcher. I don't see him doing anything in NXT. And I'm surprised, did he not hold a championship with Matt Riddle when Pete Dunne was he quarantined? Yeah.
That was at the beginning of the pandemic, and that was when Pete Dunne couldn't make it, and they had Timothy Thatcher as an interim NXT champion with Matt Riddle before they eventually broke them up, and we had Imperium win the titles. That was when he first showed up. He was originally supposed to be in NXT UK.
Yeah. I didn't even know who Timothy Thatcher was until he even paired up with Matt Riddle. So, but anyway, Timothy Thatcher, he'll just go on to wrestling school and just, put his students through pain. I'm glad I'm not one of those people in wrestling school with Timothy Thatcher. But, it is what it is these days with Timothy Thatcher.
So, where can you see Tommaso Ciampa going? Can you see him being an interim opponent for Finn Balor before the end of the month? Or are they going to go a different route with Ciampa?
I would love to see, Ciampa. I don't know if he want to be an interim opponent for Finn Balor. I think someone like Kushida could be an interim opponent for Finn until Ciampa, takes the title, becomes NXT champion eventually, and then have someone like a Pete Dunne maybe become champion down the road.
You see, let me tell you something. I actually do see a match between Pete Dunne and Finn Balor happening. Now, the reason why I say that Tommaso Ciampa would be an interim opponent, considering that Tommaso Ciampa is already a made man and he's bulletproof. I can't see Kushida as an interim opponent because Kushida has not done anything in NXT. He's finally getting an opportunity, and now he has the chance to finally be a champion. That's why I see Kushida winning the title from Finn Balor. So if Tommaso Ciampa is an interim opponent, then it wouldn't hurt Ciampa. And Finn Balor can continue his NXT title reign because Tommaso Ciampa can take a loss. That's how I'm looking at it. Now, we could see Pete Dunne take on Finn Balor, but right now, Pete Dunne has not really been gaining too much momentum. We're going to talk about Pete Dunne in a minute, actually. We're going to talk about the main event, but Pete Dunne and Finn Balor, that would definitely be a big match for NXT TakeOver WrestleMania weekend. I don't think they're going to go forth with that, considering that Kushida has just been on a whirlwind of momentum. If anything, they're probably going to have Pete Dunne built up in the interim, possibly for a match against Kushida. I would love to see Pete Dunne versus Kushida. That sounds like a great wrestling match. We could see Pete Dunne versus Damian Priest in an NXT North American Championship match. I wouldn't mind seeing that. It's a toss-up. It's a toss-up. A lot of superstars are big question marks. NXT has just been a big question mark because they don't really seem like they have a solid plan. And that's one of the things that Vince McMahon has definitely had over NXT. His influence has definitely been over NXT since April with the lack of direction and the lack of planning. Considering that they announced War Games legitimately 2.5 weeks before the actual show. And I said it should have been announced immediately after TakeOver 31. But that's where I'm coming from here. We have Tommaso Ciampa across the board here to get the victory over Mr. Timothy Thatcher.
And Storms, the thing with when it comes to the build of these takeovers, and like you said, War Games, they announced the bill for War Games just weeks before the actual event. This is something I would love to see NXT do going forward, is to try to build your takeovers like at least 6 to 8 weeks before you get the actual event, because you're just basically killing the aura of building an event like a takeover. And these takeovers, man, the takeovers in the past where you get like a feud that, is planned weeks in advance, and then you build that feud, and then that feud turns into something special. The builds have been, the recent takeover builds have not been necessarily the best builds, and I would love to see NXT build on that going forward.
I don't really know why they're announcing their takeovers so late. They did the same thing with TakeOver 31. If anything, like I said, TakeOver War Games should have been announced immediately after TakeOver 31 ended, because if anything, that will give people a reason to watch weekly programming, to see what feuds are going to be built towards the pay-per-views. That's the one thing that you should definitely focus on going into the future. And I hope that they work something out in 2021, because NXT being used as Vince McMahon's personal weapon to counter-program All Elite Wrestling has completely destroyed everything about the product. It's really heartbreaking. It really is. I expect this show to be a great show. Don't get me wrong. I expect the show to be a great show, but they really need to turn the page when 2021 begins, and they really need to start focusing on building long-term in advance. And I don't know what Triple H is doing. I still don't know how he's allowed this to happen. I really don't. I don't know how he's just allowed Vince McMahon to take over, and he's allowed Vince McMahon to just have his influence all over NXT. If anything, Triple H doesn't even realize how much power he really has. He's realistically the only one that can stand up to Vince McMahon. What's Vince going to do? Fire him? He can't fire him, because if he fires him, that's not going to sit well with his daughter. Yeah, his daughter may be his daughter, but at the end of the day, his daughter is also the mother of Triple H's three daughters. So Stephanie is not going to take too kindly to her father firing her husband. Triple H doesn't even realize the power that he has. He can say anything he wants. He's not going to get fired, specifically because if he is fired, Stephanie ain't going to be happy. So I don't understand how Triple H is just sitting there with his hands folded like a good boy in class. He should be revolting. He should be fighting against Vince, and he should be taking back the NXT that we know. And it's not even the fact that they're on Wednesdays. Even when they were on Wednesdays in the beginning, they were still putting on great shows. Whether or not they're on Wednesdays, whether or not they're at 2 hours, that's not the problem. It is all Vince McMahon.
Yeah, Triple H, man, he's the brainchild of NXT. You know, this is unlike Triple H, having Vince just, pull the strings and run NXT. And this is why, people are, the viewers out there, when it comes to Wednesday nights, they're watching AEW most of the times in NXT. And for NXT, they can't worry about what AEW is doing, because AEW is going to be AEW. But NXT, they have to be NXT to be successful. Now, I don't know if they're going to go back to that old NXT anytime soon. But, NXT, they just have to worry about what they have to control instead of, what, the other program AEW is doing.
That's the thing. I've been watching NXT UK since they returned in September. NXT UK has felt more like NXT than NXT has felt like NXT. We've been getting some great fucking feuds and great fucking matches on NXT UK with Dragunov and Walter and A-Kid and Trent Seven, Piper Niven and Kaylee Ray. We could be getting Gallus defending the tag team titles sooner rather than later. They're actually building a very nice and consistent streak of good shows on NXT UK, and they're operating with no crowd. They're operating with legitimately no crowd. No NXT UK PC recruits, and they're literally operating in a widespread sports center where it's just the ring and then it's just black everywhere else. Like, you could take a look at it. It's a very nice setup, but ultimately it's no audience, and they're putting on better shows than NXT. And they got the whole Capitol Wrestling Center. And it really does go to show you that it don't matter where you're operating from. It's all about the quality of the show. When NXT UK feels more like NXT than NXT feels like NXT, you got a problem there. But we got off in a little bit of a tangent there. We're going to talk about the main event of the show. It is the Undisputed Era. Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong versus Pat McAfee, Pete Dunne, Oney Lorcan, and Danny Burch. This is a War Games match. Now, here's the one thing that I've been saying about this match. Is this going to be a great match? Yes. The match is going to be great, but this match, specifically, they're just doing this match for the sake of doing it because they're doing War Games for the sake of doing War Games. If you've noticed, and we're talking about the build here, Matt. We're talking about the build here between NXT TakeOver 31 and then TakeOver War Games 4. You take a look at the last 3 TakeOver War Games, dude, and we've actually had some long-term build with the last 3 War Games matches that have made sense. But you take a look at what they've been doing on NXT this year, and they've legitimately had nothing on NXT this year that has made sense for a War Games match. And this is the one thing that we rag on WWE for doing pay-per-views like TLC and Hell in a Cell and Extreme Rules. We rag on them doing these gimmick pay-per-views for the sake of doing them. And I feel as though NXT was just doing War Games for the sake of doing War Games because the Pat McAfee versus Undisputed Era storyline does not make sense. Because Pat McAfee, he ran his mouth, he had a match with Adam Cole at TakeOver 30, and he lost. And then he came back on NXT 2 months later and said, oh, Adam Cole didn't shake my hand and show me respect after I brought him to a great match. And I'm listening to the promo, and no matter how good of a promo Pat McAfee really is, I'm like, McAfee, this is not a game of capture the flag in second grade gym class with your friends. You ran your mouth, you had a match, and you had a chance to back up your words, and you lost clean. There was no tomfoolery. There was no outside interference. Adam Cole beat him straight up. Pat McAfee doesn't have a leg to stand on. So this match in itself doesn't make sense. Oh, Pat McAfee. Oh, I'm Pat McAfee, and Adam Cole should have showed me respect. Seriously, I mean, are we in grammar school? We gotta show everyone respect? No. This is not grammar school. This is professional wrestling, and you are a fucking adult. You got your ass kicked at TakeOver because you ran your mouth. You fucking suck it up and you deal with it. So they literally just recycled the Pat McAfee storyline with Adam Cole because of the simple fact that they had nothing else for War Games. They had no one for the Undisputed Era to face. And ultimately, I hated that. I hated that. Now, I'm not saying that this match is going to be a bad match. I didn't like that, and I didn't like the fact that they gave Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch the titles like that. First off, they don't need to be paired with Pat McAfee. And secondly, you kind of shafted Breezango with them only having a 56-day reign as NXT Tag Team Champions. And now, more likely than not, Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch could very well lose the titles early too. Because I'm going to talk about what's going to happen after this match. Now, I expect the match to be good. I hated the build. This build was probably, ironically, it was probably the best built match going into TakeOver. This Undisputed Era versus Pat McAfee and his posse War Games match was probably the best built match going into TakeOver War Games 4. But I do not, and we should not, see Pat McAfee in any way, shape, or form on NXT television after this. The Undisputed Era is winning this match. We're going to get a great match. Pat McAfee's going to have another great performance. No problem. Pete Dunne's going to look good. Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, they're going to look good. I have no problem with that. No problem with that whatsoever. But after that, Pat McAfee should not be on NXT in any way, shape, or form. We don't need Pat McAfee. It's unnecessary. After this, Pat McAfee should never show his face on NXT again. We already know that Pat McAfee doesn't have a leg to stand on for this feud. But now, after Pat McAfee and his posse undoubtedly lose, that's going to only drive the nail further into the coffin. So that's it. Pat McAfee's team's going to lose. Undisputed Era should win. I don't really know where the Undisputed Era goes after this. We could definitely see the Undisputed Era try for another Golden Prophecy. If anything, I could possibly see the Undisputed Era possibly get a title shot against Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch. Would I give him the titles back? No. If anything, I see the Undisputed Era going up to the main roster after WrestleMania 37, which, again, I'm dreading. The Undisputed Era is absolutely going to fucking die on the main roster, no matter where they go. I do not see the Undisputed Era winning the titles. I don't see Adam Cole in anything major. We could see him get a match against a guy like a Damian Priest. We could see Roderick Strong mix it up with Finn Balor, possibly. Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish, they could possibly get a shot at Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, but I do see Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch retaining. And if anything, I see Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch eventually losing the NXT Tag Team titles to the Grizzled Young Veterans. Now, they could have the Undisputed Era win the titles, and then we could have the Grizzled Young Veterans take the titles off the Undisputed Era WrestleMania weekend, because it's a babyface versus a heel team. But at this rate, that really doesn't matter. That dynamic being needed really is, it's dead. I mean, we're in 2020. It doesn't really matter whether it's a heel or a heel versus heel, or babyface versus babyface, or babyface versus heel. As long as you put on a good match and it makes sense, I don't think anyone's going to care. So, ultimately, I do see the Grizzled Young Veterans becoming the NXT Tag Team Champions by WrestleMania weekend. Against who? I don't know. I would have it be Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch. I can see Pete Dunne mixing it up with Damian Priest. I can see Pete Dunne mixing it up with Finn Balor, possibly for the NXT Championship. He could possibly be an interim opponent for Finn Balor. We could possibly see Pete Dunne versus Kushida by the summer of 2021. We could possibly see Pete Dunne walk out of SummerSlam TakeOver with the NXT Championship. And to be quite honest, I would do that. But I see the Undisputed Era winning this match, and Pat McAfee should never be seen on NXT television ever again. It's only going to drive the nail further into the coffin that Pat McAfee does not have a leg to stand on. Mr. Moody, this is the main event. Give me your expertise, analysis, thoughts, opinions, and prediction.
The Undisputed Era have ruled NXT since the very beginning. But Pat McAfee and his new stable believe their run is going to come to an end. But only the UE will have something to say. For one, I'm glad to see Pete Dunne back. We talked about that. He's going to be an NXT champion or a North America champion soon. Then you have Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch as tag team champions in NXT to complete their squad. Now, they'll have the numbers advantage in War Games. And Pete Dunne is the only member of his team to be in a War Games match. So experience will be important, especially in a dangerous environment against a team like the Undisputed Era, who have tons of experience in War Games. They've been there, done that. And they have the advantage in that area. So this is going to be an all-out war. That's going to be all about survival. I can't go against the UE in this match. Undisputed Era, I will beat Pat McAfee's team. They're not ready to step out and watch Pat McAfee and his team take over the Black and Gold brand by any means. So I'm going to pick the Undisputed Era to win the men's War Games, and hopefully, as you say, sir, Pat McAfee will not show his face again in NXT after TakeOver War Games.
So, where can you see the Undisputed Era going after this?
Hopefully not on the main roster.
I don't think anyone wants to be on the main roster, especially with Mr. Bruce Pritchard, which I got a story. I got a story tomorrow on the Lightning Flash update about how a lot of superstars are frustrated with Mr. Bruce Pritchard, but that's tomorrow on the Lightning Flash update. I hope to see you there. But hopefully not to the main roster. Continue what you were saying.
Hopefully they'll stay in NXT. Now, as for them winning gold, you know, we've been all too familiar with the Undisputed Era holding championship gold in NXT. They've been through that before. I don't know, man. Hopefully the Undisputed Era can stay relevant without going to the main roster in NXT. Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish or Robert Strong, if you can combine those three, I see challenging Lorcan and Burch for the tag team titles. Now, I don't believe they'll win against Lorcan and Burch. But at the same time, the tag team division, is where you going to get your teams from? Now, you got the Grizzled Young Veterans, who I'm excited to see in NXT. And I definitely believe that they're going to be tag team champions ASAP once you get them built up right. But the Undisputed Era, as long as they don't go to that dreaded main roster, I do see them being a relevant faction in NXT.
So, Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, is that the match that you see for the Grizzled Young Veterans in 2021, where the Grizzled Young Veterans eventually win the titles?
Yes.
Now, Pete Dunne.
For me, yes. Go ahead.
No. You can continue what you were saying.
Oh, yeah, Pete Dunne, yeah, Pete Dunne. You know, Pete Dunne is interesting because, you know, I would, you know, facing Finn Balor perhaps at a TakeOver sometime WrestleMania weekend next year. I see him, you know, beating Finn and becoming NXT champion. You know, it's been a while since Pete Dunne's been champion. Obviously, we know he's been the longest reigning NXT UK champion until Walter, you know, held that title. But Pete Dunne, you know, I definitely see him taking the title, the NXT championship off of Finn Balor sometime next year. Perhaps WrestleMania weekend.
So, where do you see Kushida factoring into this? Do you think they're going to hold off on Kushida and we're going to see Kushida win the NXT title SummerSlam weekend? If anything, I would say strike when the iron is hot with Kushida.
Right. Because he's been winning matches, and that's been the most important for Kushida. Now, possibly by the new year, we could get Finn versus Kushida for the NXT Championship, and I wouldn't mind that. You know, but you know, Kushida's an interesting figure, man, because, you know, I want to see Kushida win, but at the same time, you don't want to have him lose so much where you bury him on NXT. I would have him, you know, face Finn for the NXT Championship at least, you know, either late this year or into the new year. Should be interesting with Kushida to see where he factors in 2021.
So, do you see Kushida and Pete Dunne as an NXT Championship match in the near future?
I do believe so. I think they would tear the house down if they would have had that match. They you know, if you like submission wrestling, if you like you know, good physical match, but also a great match, Kushida and Pete Dunne would definitely put on a good 25-30 minute match if given that time.
I don't think there's anyone that's going to deny that. And ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the end. That wraps up this edition of The Rundown. I'd like to thank each and every single one of you who tuned into this video. Like, comment, subscribe. Check out all the links in the description. Of course, I got the Lightning Flash update tomorrow. I got that at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. I will be live. We're going to go 2.5 hours. We're going to go 3 hours. We're going to talk about all the weekly shows. We're going to talk about the latest news, rumors, and reports. I got a lot of news, rumors, and reports, including superstars frustrated with Bruce Pritchard. I got Jey Uso with big plans in store for him. And on top of that, let's see what else I got. Let's just take a peek here. But I'm not telling you. I'm not going too much in depth, all right? I'm not going too much in depth. We got Roman Reigns and Jey Uso storyline leading to big plans for Jey Uso. Bruce Pritchard obviously has a lot of superstars angry with him. And of course, we got Strowman suffering a legitimate injury, which I will go in depth on. But that's tomorrow. We just dissected NXT TakeOver War Games. Of course, that is on Sunday. I will be live tweeting and note-taking. And, of course, we got the rewind for TakeOver War Games coming to you Monday afternoon at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Matt Moody, where can we find you on social media?
Social media, Twitter, I'm mostly on there all the time, most of the time anyway. It's Matt, M-A-T-T, Moody, M-O-O-D-Y _M on Twitter. Moody Strong Style is my Instagram handle if you guys want to follow me there. And if you guys want to add me on Facebook, you know, DM me on Twitter, and I will be glad to follow back.
All the links for Matt Moody's social media is in the description. Matt Moody, thank you very much for coming. I was floundering to actually find a guest. My last couple guests actually canceled on me due to life restrictions, obviously. Everyone's got a life, everyone's got shit to do. So I greatly appreciate you accepting the offer. I appreciate you. I knew he was going to accept when I made that call, because when it comes to Matt Moody, he always comes in clutch. That's why I have him in the DJ Storms posse, because he's loyal and he knows what he's doing. He's got a very, very, very good mind when it comes to professional wrestling, and I'm still waiting for you to start your own channel, man.
Soon. It's coming, man. It's coming soon. You know, it's going to take time. But obviously, once I do start my own YouTube channel, I will be glad to let everybody out there know that that when I pop up, you know, it's gonna happen. It's gonna go down.
Oh, it's definitely gonna go down, bro.
Yes, sir. But I do appreciate you having me on, sir. I always appreciate it.
And I greatly appreciate you. Thank you for all the support. We're definitely going to do this again. I greatly appreciate it. I'll probably have you on for the next TakeOver as well. I think Matt Moody might be a staple on TakeOver rundowns from here on out. I think that's probably the best route to go. Matt Moody is going to be reserved for TakeOver rundowns. Earl Cole and me are like... Earl Cole is like the one that has the most appearances. He appears sporadically, but I think Matt Moody is going to be strictly to TakeOvers. He's going to be a recurring TakeOver rundown guest. If you're down with that...
Hey, listen, if anything I can do, man, I'm willing to put my heart, my power, and my determination into it to make it happen.
That's right. I greatly appreciate you. Thank you very much. He's Matt Moody. I'm DJ Storms, and this has been The Rundown. I will catch you guys tonight, actually, for SmackDown. I will be live tweeting for SmackDown tonight. And, of course, I got Lightning Flash Update tomorrow, TakeOver Sunday, Rewind on Monday. You guys have a great night.